recording is up and going, and then I'll just be a minute or so. I'm looking for something to talk about.
Forward, my friends!
Teleporter online. We move swiftly.
Got the TP. Nice.
And
All right. So
I staggered in there.
So in this situation, and sorry, correct me if I'm wrong here. You're playing on console, right?
Yeah. So I'm ranked 10 on PC. I'm actually, after we're done this review, I'm gonna try to grind to 20 tonight. I'm gonna attempt.
Sorry, did you say you're ranked 10 on PC?
On PC, on console, I'm like.
Wait, I'm confused.
Way
So
high
are
up.
you talking about top 500 ranked 10 or
No,
what
no,
ranked
no,
10
no,
are you
no, no,
talking
no.
about?
Literally, I'm level 10.
Level 10. Okay, sorry. You said
Yeah.
rank, so I was getting confused. I was like,
I'm sorry. Yeah.
that doesn't compute here.
Right,
All right.
translation.
All right, all good. So here, notice how we just kind of hard lock our camera and we're not looking around at all as we're walking in a straight line. So tips for staying alive here. Firstly, don't walk in a straight line. That'll help you out. Secondly, if we just turn and sleep the Zarya, that's another thing we can do. Because we're kind of just staring at the wall the whole time we're walking through. If you're thinking, well, firstly, we know that everybody's on our right because we're walking in. Secondly, you can hear them shooting at you. You can see where the damage is coming from. If you look at your crosshair, you'll see right next to there you have hit markers, which will show you the direction of damage. You can see Zarya's beam, and once again, on the right side of your screen, you can see it. So sleep, not running in a straight line, also potentially cover usage, and then third thing is that notice how probably could take the high ground here, stay with our team, grab the health pack, use cover, but we're kind of running off onto our own over onto this side, which just isolates us and kind of, even if there is somebody chasing us, then it isolates us. If there's nobody chasing us, then what the heck are we doing over here? Right?
I think my thought process was I wanted to get to that stone wall for cover to peek, but I wasn't when I hate TPing. I really, honestly, really hate TPing in these maps. It's just, you just don't, especially like not scouting first. And I was in comms like the whole time, like, okay, like, I'm like, we can try this, like, for sure, like, let's do our best. And then we go in, and I went to look for my Ryan duo, and I couldn't even see Mike. So I was like, okay, and I freaked out, and then I went left and died.
Yeah.
Totally on me.
That's because he did not go through.
super, super, super bad positioning on my. I usually like to stay back a little bit and let them move in first, and then see like which route is the safest for me. And I went against my better judgment. And there you go.
Yeah.
I got killed by the Zarya. Placement. Yeah, that looks like I have never used a controller before. Promise it gets better.
I could use some healing, thanks. Somebody get me some healing. If I use it, stop. Here it comes. Spy.
You're going to be okay. This will help.
Okay, nice nade.
Get behind me.
Taking damage.
Fire in the hole.
You're powered up. Get in there.
Alright. Pretty decent Ryan Nano. I think he's on top of some people there, right?
You're powered
Yeah,
up.
there you go.
Get in there. Healing enough.
Alright, so pretty good fight. We could go through micro things here. Make sure that when you're trying to chuck a nade in, watch for your teammates. We'll maybe go more in depth on that later on. Or not necessarily on the teammates part, but just on landing nades in general. Because here Reinhardt just walks in front of us, and that's
right.
All you have to do is go, oh, that's a Reinhardt. Go walk to the left, walk to the right. Go back, go forwards, just wait for him to move out of the way. You have so many different options. Just want to make sure it's not. But once again, that's macro unless it's coming up again and again and again.
Take your medicine. Locking down the objective.
Alright. Okay, so
They're coming.
Zarya is super far forwards at the moment, right? She's out of position. So in this situation, what is something that you can do that guarantees the kill on Zarya?
Nade her.
Nade her, okay. So nade, right? Nade does, you'll do some damage to her. You'll stop her from getting healing. Is she gonna get healing anyways?
No, but I think she bubbled, and I thought her bubble ended, and she can't cleanse, so I wanted to get her off early.
Okay, but so once again, right? Like the purpose of what nade does stops healing, does a little bit of damage. Okay, so we do a little bit of damage. We stop her from healing. Is she going to be able to get healing anyways during the time that nade will last?
Not in my peripheral, yeah. So no.
Yeah, so no, so the anti healing is not going to do anything here. Okay, so you are not incorrect. Nade is still a good option, but in this situation, Nade is maybe just as good as hitting a shot on her, right? Now, what is something you can do that guarantees that she dies?
Call out her position.
No, I'll give you a hint. It's another ability.
I could absolutely sleep her.
Yeah, sleep literally just guarantees the kill. If she's sleeping, Reinhardt comes over, charges her. Hanzo comes over, headshots her in the head, in the head. So when it comes to your abilities, you're going to have different situations where different ones have different power levels, and in this situation, the sleep comes before the nade because sleep is just guarantees the kill. Nade maybe helps with the kill. So there's no reason to go for the nade when sleep would be just the better ability in the situation and guarantee her dead. Because then
Can
she
you?
bubbled. Good.
Oh, she does. She does bubble. That sucks. Oh my god, that's so good on my part. So who's around me? So Ryan's next to me. There's the Hanzo, and then there's Bray. Okay, so if I would have slept there, okay, she would have got rolled. Okay, I see what you're saying. All right.
Enemy turret ahead.
Sorry, I have a notebook.
All good. Do you note as well that you ordered the notes, so I'll be getting you notes as well.
Oh, I did order notes. I couldn't remember. That's awesome. Very good.
Yeah.
Somebody get me some healing. Here it comes.
This will only hurt
All
for a
right.
minute.
I like that we're going for the anti, though we might talk about anti soon here, because ends up being kind of a one-man anti-nade, whereas if we go back, 10 seconds here, and we look, and we turn and we look up top here, well, now maybe we have we have more people in the anti, at least, sorry, there's a torp there now, but they do split up pretty fast, so we have two people there, if we were to go for it. So at some point, maybe we'll discuss like how to go for bigger antes. Here they are very split up though.
Огонь по готовности. Somebody get me some
Okay.
healing.
Minor thing once again, and minor things will all add up when, especially when they're done again and again. But so far we're rolling them pretty hard. We've lost one push and that's about it. Another thing here, and that is overhealing. So when somebody is full HP or very, very close to full HP, and you shoot a shot of healing at them, well, then you're doing pretty much absolutely nothing. It's just a bullet that's wasted, and then now you don't have bullets when you need bullets, and then it's also just time that you're doing nothing with. So here, if you notice and you look at Reinhardt and Briggs' HP bar when they get grabbed, right, you can go, okay, Reinhardt's full, Briggs full, Hanzo's full, and then we go shot, 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 right? And then those shots just end up doing nothing. And then now we're reloading, and now Reinhardt's, if you notice on your bottom left, Reinhardt's critical while we're in the middle of reloading. And Ash is critical while we're in the middle of reloading. So overhealing is just going to, firstly, notice how that, that means that you don't have healing when you need it. And then it also is just a time waster because that's time that we could have been landing a nade or sleep or reloading with that time or just shooting people or doing really anything else that would be higher value than nothing. And then that also can apply as well when somebody's close to full HP. So if Reinhardt's down, 30 HP or 50 HP, well, you have to think to yourself, is healing 30 HP worth my time in comparison to reloading or nading or sleeping or nanoing or shooting somebody else, or looking for somebody else to heal, or doing anything else, repositioning, thinking about my surroundings, right? You just have to weigh, is this valuable? And in a lot of those cases, the answer will be no, it is not valuable. So that's overhealing in that case. Now, if you're in between fights, then that's perfectly acceptable. And that whole concept makes sense.
Absolutely, it's something I struggle with a lot. I think too.
Mm-hmm.
I get really like pockety,
Mm-hmm.
and then exactly like you said, I'm in the middle of reloading, and my whole team is critical, and it's always a mess.
Yeah.
This
Mm-hmm.
will only hurt.
Is there any ways I can proactively kind of mitigate that? Like any kind of thought process walking into team fight, or even like a
Yeah.
pre-fight,
So
like.
a couple things. Well, firstly, awareness of people's health bars. If you don't see their health bars, well, then you don't know what HP people are, and you just heal them. If you're actively watching for people's health bars, and their colors through walls and things like that, well, then you see, oh, this person is full HP. I don't need to heal them. And then additionally, we could get into the I mean, if you feel like we can go over that now. But just how you work on anything that you're trying to work on in general, whether that be in game or out of game, is you're going to make sure that while you're playing, you're actively focusing on the thing you're trying to work on. So, if in this case, for example, not to say this is the most important thing so far, but if you were to be trying to work on your overhealing, right, then you'd be thinking to yourself while you're playing, you'd be going, you want to make sure that you're not autopiloting, you're not just playing to play. And contrary to popular belief, even though you want to win and climb, that shouldn't be you shouldn't be purely focusing on winning, because then you just stagnate. Whereas when you focus on improvement, they actually go places. So what that actually looks like within your head is you should be thinking to yourself, awareness, 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 health bars, health bars, health bars, health bars, overhealing, 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 giving yourself just a constant stream of reminders to think about it. And when you think about, watch people's health bars, do they need healing? Well, then you're probably not going to overheal nearly as much, because you're actively thinking about it. And then once you do that for a long enough period of time, it forms it as a positive habit. Once it forms it as a positive habit, then it's not something you need to worry about nearly as much. You don't need to focus on it, because it just kind of comes naturally, and then you can move on to something else to work on. And that is the process of improvement. Now, another recommendation is don't try to do everything all at once, because that will become overwhelming. Focus on one main category, or 1 to 3 smaller things within a category. And at the end of the session, we'll probably review what I would recommend to be the thing to work on.
Very good.
All right. Let's keep going then.
I will keep you healed.
Cease your
Okay.
resistance. Get in there, Bob.
Yeah, I know.
You know.
You're powered up. Get in there.
Don't heal Bob. I don't know even know why I did that.
Sorry, what into the Bob? What about throwing nade in the Bob?
I think I put 4 shots into Bob. As soon as I finished doing it, I was like, that was
You're powered
literally
up.
such a
Get in
waste
there.
of time.
Alright. So. Alright, so 3 minutes. And how many sleeps do we use?
I actually don't think I used a single sleep that round.
I think I spotted one, maybe the second that I didn't notice. We tried to sleep the Reaper when he's on the high ground on first
Oh
point,
right,
but
right.
besides that, yeah, I think you're pretty spot on. And how many, like, theoretically, I mean, like, we could do the theoretics, right? Let's say, just because there's not always a situation for sleep, but you do want to be using it semi-frequently. You want to be getting it out there. When it comes to your abilities, you want to, now with exceptions, which we'll talk about in a moment, but when you have nothing contesting you, you should be using your abilities pretty much off of cooldown. So if you have 3 minutes of gameplay, that's, maybe 3 minutes and 20 seconds, something like that, right? 3 minutes of gameplay. Let's take out a minute, so let's say 2 minutes. Sleep is a 12-second cooldown, so we have 60 times 220, and then that divided by 12, you can get in 10 sleeps, right? In the time that we used 1 sleep, roughly speaking. So use it more frequently, because you're not. A couple things with that. Firstly, it's not going to do anything if you don't use it, right? It's just
Right.
going to get zip value. In fact, it did get no value that round. You're also not going to be able to practice it if you don't use it. If you don't use it, then how are you ever going to get good at landing your sleeps? And then you're going to go, oh, sleep doesn't do anything. It's because you never land them, right? And then, yeah, that's mainly it. Use the ability, because then it actually does stuff, and sleep can get a lot of value. And on Ana, your abilities is one of your biggest carrying potentials. It's one of your biggest abilities to leave an impact on your games is through your abilities, and not using one of them is going to put you at a big handicap. It's like, not to the same extent, but think if you never used your nano boost, right? It'd be maybe like half as bad, right? But I've had people where they've gone like five fights in a row without using their ultimate, right? That
Oh
I've
my
coached.
gosh.
And that's essentially what you're doing here is you're going
Mm.
every single fight without actually pressing the ability, right? So just press it and then you'll be good.
In situations,
Mhm.
so I think and that's a really good point. And I think I hold on to my abilities
Attackers
as much as I
incoming.
do sometimes because
Defend
of
objective A.
getting dived and
Okay.
oh,
So
go ahead.
that
Sorry.
was going to be the one that I was going to address, but then I forgot to address it. So the exception to the rule is pressure. So you have two kind of types of pressure. You have actual pressure and you have potential for pressure. Potential for pressure means what map are you on? What comp is your team on? And most importantly, what comp is the enemy team on? Are they on zero flankers or dive characters? Okay. Well, if they have, like, look at their comp right now. Is there anybody who's going to be coming and getting? Oh, sorry, that's our comp. I'm looking at their comp. Okay, same thing applies. Is there anybody who's going to be coming into your backline and getting on top of you?
Absolutely not.
Not yet. Not probably not really, unless like Symmetra TPs or Soldier or Hog flank. It's just not going to happen nearly as frequently, right?
Yeah, it's
Um,
like a Reaper or a
yeah.
Genji or Pharah or whatever.
Exactly. Now, if so that's potential for pressures. What do they have? So if they might have a Genji, and a Tracer, and because of a Genji and Tracer, double flanker. Okay, well now you might want to start holding on to sleep. Generally speaking, sleep is your more defensive ability. Nade is your more offensive ability. So if they just have a little bit to contest you, might want to start holding on to sleep, right? Then, if they have a ton to contest, you probably want to hold on to both. Because let's say they're on a full dive. Well, now, the only time they're ever grouping up, anyways, is to get on top of you, and you want both of your abilities to keep yourself alive. Now, they're not always on a dive, so if they're not on a dive and they're on nothing to contest you, then why hold on to your abilities, right? They're just not going to do anything. So it depends on the circumstance when you want to hold on to it. So that's potential for pressure. Can they actually get on top of you? And then actual pressure is, are they actually getting on top of you? They might be on a full dive, but if you're on fight 3 and you have not once had a single person on top of you, well, now you might want to start considering, okay, well, maybe I shouldn't be holding on to both of my abilities if they're not actually contesting me, right? If they're on Genji Tracer and they don't never touch you, well then don't hold on to sleep for forever. Because then, once again, it's just an ability that you're not doing anything with. So think about both of those, and then that will dictate when you can hold on and when you do not hold on. And then as a general rule, you're not going to like they're not on dive every single every single round, right? So it's gonna depend. That makes sense?
Absolutely, yeah. So to kind of ride off of that, um, in a few of my other VODs that I've had reviewed, something that I get a lot is like the value of the sleep.
Hmm.
So in this instance, so like usually I'm pretty sure right now I'm like flicking select to get like my team comp up to see who is what, and just a habit I have for when 15 seconds hit so I can see them. So like in 15 seconds, unless I see the entire team, I'm gonna see Soldier, Hog, and Moira, and not in any particular order, but those three are the ones I'm gonna think about sleeping. Is that something that I should actively do, or is it more of a situational like this person's more of a threat? I have to sleep them.
So you're saying who should you be sleeping, or should you be thinking about who you should be sleeping? Is that kind of thing?
Yeah, like not necessarily like. I guess what I'm asking is like, is it
Valuable to spend time thinking about who to sleep?
right? Yeah, is it
Yeah.
valuable to think of time
Sure.
how I'm going to get my value?
Sure. I mean that's perfectly fine. I mean it depends on like especially if you're like in between fights. That's gonna be best. Um, but yeah, I mean like that'll get once you start to think through like that, it'll start to come faster and faster and faster. Where you can make snap judgments in like the second once you start to really get in tune with it. Now, I mean, like if you're thinking of this comp, I mean, you can sleep ultimates. That would be fantastic. On their team, you have 5 ultimates technically that you can sleep, right? Um, realistically. So you have 5 ults that you can sleep. You can sleep Hog Hook. Hog is a big fat target that you can probably sleep multiple times. That so you have a lot of Hog would be probably a fantastic target. You can sleep for ultimates. You can sleep for abilities. You can sleep just when somebody's out of position, right? You have a lot. It's gonna be circumstantial, but then also you'll notice that you might find it easier to sleep a Hog, and more often will you be sleeping the Hog than, for example, like a Moira who's probably gonna be in their backline the whole time.
Right. Okay, that makes sense.
Get back in the fight. No.
I don't love this position anymore.
Yeah.
I think I would rather be on the bottom.
Yeah,
than up
exactly.
here.
So some of the main thing here, this high ground's just not fantastic. Usually high grounds are fantastic. High grounds give you survivability, which here is not really useful because they're not going to be able to get on top of us anyways. High ground gives you visibility, which here this is a rarer high ground that actually gives you less visibility, because if you compare what we can see from here to what we can see from here, well, actually we can probably see a little bit more from down here because some of the like this gets in the way of us being able to see people and stuff like that. Just gives us a little bit more visibility on the ground. We can't see that bottom left area. So there's a little bit more visibility we can see. So this is just one of the rare cases where like the high ground isn't as good as just being on the ground. And sometimes that's the case.
Go. I keep
Will
you
depend.
healed.
Okay. Another thing. So for example here, notice how we can't actually see anything. And then notice as well how you should be reloading anytime there's a lull in the fight where there's nothing else to do, right? So look, for example, right here.
Oh, that's really good.
Yeah, so like when there's just nothing else to do, you want to be reloading, because here you can think, okay, well, yeah, there's a couple people who are down, but is anybody really needing healing at the moment?
Go. I keep you healed.
I mean, you can look
That's
at
so big. Oh my god, that's crazy. It's awesome. I never thought of
yeah.
that.
So then notice, it's still okay. I mean, you can look at health bar still, and yeah, people maybe need a little bit, but now notice how Reiner gets hooked into their team, and we have 1 bullet, right? And
Right.
we use it, and then now Reiner's critical, and we have 0 bullets. And that happened last fight as well that we were looking at. Okay, another thing, nade. So once again, so nade, it's not nearly as bad as our sleep, but we probably could be using it a little bit more frequently. The other thing is that you want to be looking for more antis. Antis are incredibly high powered. Anti-nade, in a lot of cases, if you're hitting 4, 5, 6-man anti-nade, they can be even more powerful than your nano boost. And that's an ability that you have on a cooldown. Now, you're not always going to be hitting 4, 5, 6-man anti-nades, but it just goes to show the power level of the ability, that stopping people from being able to heal is very, very valuable. And we don't seem to be using it as much as we could, and that's usually the case with most of Ana players that I coach, is that it's underutilized. Probably say it's like one of the most underutilized parts of her kit. So I'd recommend just actively look for more anti-nades. And then we'll talk more about how you can land more anti-nades. This is just right now we're talking about the why. And then maybe in a bit we'll talk about the how to actually do that. So yeah, just make sure you're actively looking for it. Here we could probably just chuck it in. Just, I mean, like, you're not gonna be super accurate with it from this range. You can probably just throw it in and hope it does something versus, holding onto it and then doing nothing. And then maybe we can get a couple people. So actually, that was good. We get the healing with it. That's a good nade. Yeah, when people are in
This will
danger and
help.
in need of healing, that's when you should be heal nading, which is what we did. Oh yeah, that's another point. Healing nades come when people are in danger and low. There's a difference between the two. I can be 1 HP and right here and perfectly safe, and I can be full HP and right here and very much in danger. If I am right here in the middle of their team and full HP, well then nade's not going to do anything. And if I am right here and I might not even need nade because I'm perfectly safe and they can just heal me up normally. So healing nades come when people are both low and in danger, usually. Or if you get it like in a combo, you get an anti and a heal. And then if that's not the case, then you go for anti-nades, and anti-nades will be, roughly speaking, depending on the circumstance, about 60% of the time you'll be antiing.
And I think here so like it's cool like I healed.
I have your back.
But I think
Mhm.
and since I think I've watched a couple of ML7 videos with where he's hitting his nades at.
Mhm.
I think I should have been aiming for the dragon crest, and that's what I wanted to do was hit my Rhine and Hog and hit their team.
Mhm.
Like cool, I healed them, but I do feel like I lost value because I feel like I could have splashed at least one or two of them.
Yeah, and I'm just talking about, like, for example, like here, notice how I have it again, where we can just be chucking. Oh, there you go. But like, notice I was just kind of healing up the
Heal up.
team when maybe your team's like not super in need of it anyways. Okay, notice the lack of sleep, so just underutilized abilities. We'll talk more about how to land nade in a minute. Oh, notice once again, visibility. Right, can see. Up here you can't see, but you already said that before. Okay, we probably could have nanoed. Probably could be nanoing Hog right now. Okay, make sure. I don't think. Oh, we did have it last. Yeah, we did see nano last time. So there, nanoing Hog can probably nanoing Reinhardt if we had visibility. Hog, we did have visibility. We could have nanoed. So once again, use your abilities. It doesn't do stuff if you don't use it, and those would be perfect situations for it, because it's a tank who's low, and it would keep them alive. And then Reinhardt and Hog here are great targets to nano.
Freeze! Don't move!
Unlucky.
You're powered up. Get
Okay.
in there.
We are going to discuss, okay, how to tell whether or not you've won or lost a fight. So this primarily comes down to watching kill feed. Top right corner of your screen. Are you up people or are you down people? When you are up or down 1 to 2 people, that is an advantage or a disadvantage, right? In those cases, you can play more aggro or more passive. Now, when you are up or down 2 to 3 people, that is a won fight or a lost fight. So in those cases, you get out if you can. If you can't get out, you let them kill you, and then you don't use ultimates at all. And then when you won the fight, you play extra aggro. So in this circumstance, because it is 6v4, and we have no additional advantage at all, that means that this fight is currently a lost fight, and Nano Boost ends up getting wasted. So we can, and this is just statistics, right? Like, what is your statistical probability of winning? You still technically could win this. It's possible for you to win it, but I'd be willing to bet, that you have probably like a 15% chance of winning this fight or so. And then you have to think, is it worth using an ultimate in a 15% chance to win a fight? That all makes sense?
Absolutely.
Yep. We don't have to get, you can get more advanced with it. That's the basics of it. So yeah, we're down 2 people. No other advantage to flip it around, so that is lost. And then we can see, do we actually lose it? I would probably say we probably will.
Stay out of my way!
Never.
Allow me to repair the damage.
Okay, nice. We go for the
I
sleep.
will keep you healed. The pain.
Ooh, massive. But the fight's already lost at that point.
Yeah. I was just trying to die.
So yeah, I mean, like, you can see, it's not magic what I just did, but I predicted that you were gonna lose and you lost, and that's just the probability of how many people do you have
You're
up, right?
covered.
And that's usually most of the time going to add up unless somebody does something crazy.
I'm under attack.
Is it the I usually can tell whether or not it's worth it for me to stick around for the fight.
Mhm.
When usually after one pick and seeing the current health of somebody else, I go, even if I can get this person back to full health, we're still at least one person down, and they're coming back all the way from spawn. I should get out of here because that
Mm-mm.
is going to save my life.
Nope.
So that was what I was trying not to do in that fight.
Yeah.
How do I
So
differentiate between the two? If that makes sense.
so those are two extremes. One extreme is not committing too fast. The other
Mhm.
extreme is overcommitting when you shouldn't.
And that's what I did, right?
And both yeah, and that's what you just did. In both of those circumstances, it gets solved if you're watching kill feed and following the numbers that I was just talking about. And it's important to understand the numbers because, like I said 1 to 2 advantage disadvantage, and that's the circumstance when you're only down a person. That is not a lost fight. That's just you're just at a disadvantage, and you can win disadvantages. It's think of it like this: you're taking your chances for winning. Your chances for winning at the start of the fight are 50%. Now it's a 40%, right? Now you still can win a 40%. That's honestly it's pretty decent odds still, but you want to play more passive. It's still a disadvantage. But if you're down 2 to 3 people, well, now at that point, it's more like you maybe have, I don't know, like I said, like 15% chance of winning, 10% chance of winning, right? And in those cases, then it's like, no, there's no reason to stick around, right? So it's if you're remembering the numbers and watching the kill feed, then you should be good. If we need to go more in depth, we can go more in depth on the more in depth part is why is 2 the middleman? Like how do you tell if it's 2 people? That's the more in depth part, but we don't have to focus too much on that unless that's an issue here. Does
Uh,
does that explanation make sense?
Absolutely, absolutely. And I can sit here and ask you a billion questions, and I'm just gonna let that sink in for a second, so I don't do that.
Oh, good.
Cool, I appreciate that.
Yeah, feel free to ask questions. I'm fine for
Healing
whatever.
I see.
Okay.
You're going to live.
Decent nade.
Get into position.
So something that there you go, Mike. Something that we had actually, Mike, who is Tadisc, and he's the Reinhardt, is one of my duo partner. We discussed last night was something that I've been picking up in our games from on my end is I don't feel like I'm rotating in a way with him that's enabling him. It's just keeping me safe. And I feel like what he just did, even though I think I got that nade off on at least somebody, I don't think I was in a great position for him to be aggressive.
Yeah, so here you're talking about here when they all push forwards. Yeah,
Right.
you probably do want to like if your whole team is running forwards like that, you probably can start running forwards with them. But you just have to see that the flow of the fight's pushing that direction. So when you see everybody's running in, you want to just immediately start walking, right? Immediately start walking forwards, so then you're able to keep up with the fight rather than being caught all the way in the back. Also, Junkrat's on the right. I don't know if we notice it. Oh, still there.
Yeah, I was calling that out.
Oh,
Calling
there you
him
go.
out.
Yeah.
Here's Mike coming back.
But yes, you're correct. I wouldn't say it was absolutely terrible of a
Watching your
mistake, but yes, you probably should have pushed forwards.
So can I rotate to the lanterns? Is that so?
Sure.
I don't know if I this was I think like a bit ago. So I think I might have been weary of the Junkrat spam, but in hindsight, that's really not that much of a deterrent. I can see that coming. If it was a
Yeah.
Hanzo, that'd be a different story.
It Yeah, I mean, if it's a Junkrat, you probably don't have to worry too much about. You can sleep him, you can shoot at him, you can stay far enough away that you can just dodge his bullets because they're very slow projectiles. I'd just be wary of him, really. Maybe if it was like a Widowmaker hunt, like you said, that might be a little bit
You're
different.
powered up. Get in there.
I'm feeling on.
Okay, that's a pretty decent nano.
Sighted the enemy.
Walk it off.
Though maybe reading his body language of like when is he pushing, when is he backing, because here we nano him when he's backing up, so he's backing up around the edge, he's dropping, so just that means that it's a second or two before. I mean, he was low HP, so honestly that's pretty fine.
That
Just
was what
means
I
that
think I
he's
was
out,
trying to
yeah.
do. It was to save him.
Mhm.
You're covered.
Okay, could be chucking in sleep. All right, we're gonna go back to the training range. We're gonna go over a couple things because we're
So I can just chuck sleep into the middle of a team fight, and even if it doesn't hit anybody, it's still getting some kind of value because I'm attempting to it. Is that like is
so
that
well.
reasonable
Okay,
to say?
so
Never
think of it like
stop
this: how
fighting
much
for
if
what you
you
believe in.
don't use it, how much value do you get?
Okay, that makes a lot of sense. Okay, yeah, so I get
Well,
0 value if I don't use it.
Okay, now if you attempt to use it and you miss, how much value do you get?
I still get 0, but at least
Still
I
gets
tried.
0. Yeah, I mean, yeah, at least you tried, but still 0. But you have a chance to get value, right? And that's the
Right.
thing is it's 0 value versus 0 to 100 value, right? It's the
Okay.
difference between the two. You have a spectrum, and then you have 0, right? Which is better, the spectrum or 0, right? The spectrum, obviously. So go for sleeps, and you don't want to always just chuck it in, but in those situations where you're just sitting a mile away and nobody's coming to contest you, well, then that's the only thing that you really can do to get value out of it. Just chuck it into the fight where you see a bunch of people grouped up. Still try to aim it, but put it into the fight. All right. Abilities, nades specifically, right? How should you be landing them? Firstly, wait for people to group up. If you are not, no, excuse me. If you are not waiting for people to group up, you're only ever going to hit like one person at a time. So you want to wait for people to group up. Throughout a fight, you'll see that the enemy team will kind of expand and contrast, and expand and then compress, and then expand and then come back together. Right? They'll just go in and out, and you want to wait for when they group up together to chuck in the nade, so you can get as many people as possible in it. Typically, you're looking for kind of 2+, but preference is just as many as possible. Right. Besides that, don't try to hit people directly with nade. If you try to hit someone directly and you miss, well, then it just goes sailing past in the Narnia. If you hit the ground, well, then you have this gigantic radius, so you don't have that as much of a chance to miss. And the other thing is that they can't body block it from hitting other people. So ground in between as many people as possible. Tech to land nades. So if you come here, if you scope in, this only works if you are scoped. You take your ultimate charge and you line it up with an enemy, and you press E. Well, now then your nade is gonna hit them from any height or any range that you're at. So
I wish
same.
you could see my face.
that one gets all the Ana players, or about like half of them. Half of them give a big reaction, and then half of them are like, "Oh, okay, cool."
That's so broken.
Yeah, here now that we're on like even footing, and they are like a little bit below us. It's now the queue they were lining up.
This will only
Same
hurt
thing.
for a minute.
And then
So you're
obviously.
telling me that I don't have to eyeball it every single time.
Yep. I mean, besides when you're close, you probably don't want to use it when you're like right next to somebody. But yeah, mid long range, yeah, it's gonna be. It is very much helpful.
No. I cannot wait to try that. Oh my god, that's so sick.
Yep. I didn't learn about that until after I already peaked on Ana. Well, all right. So let's see what else is there.
Broken. I'm so excited to try that.
When you're looking for nades, watch for obstacles. Get around them. Your teammates are obstacles. We just talked about that before. Enemy shields and tanking abilities and tanks themselves. You have a lot of different options. You can, let's say shields, right? You can wait for shields to go down, to break, for them to die. You can you can hit somebody outside of the shield. You can get around the shields from the left, the right, up. You can chuck them under shields. You can, wait for your teammates to do stuff to the shields, right? There's a lot of different options you have. Just look to take them. Same thing with a lot of the tanking abilities. And then a really easy way to just bypass all of that is just positioning. So if the enemy team is right there, our team is right here, main angle, right? They have shields and tanks and tanking abilities, and your teammates are all in front of you. That makes sure you can land the nade, but it just makes for a really hard nade to land. Whereas if we just take a second and come to the side, well, now we just got around to all of that. Past our team, enemy, tanks, everything, straight to their back line, where we can land that. And it's very safe, it's very fast. This is what you call an off angle. And you want to be looking for those. They're going to crop up around maybe like 40% of the time or so. High grounds also do that for you. Enemy team, our team, heal, 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 back up. Okay, we just instantly get up to high ground, instantly around everything, straight to the back line, big nade. Doesn't really do that as much though if they're all the way over here, because then they can still shield us. Right? Now let's start doing the wrap up stuff. So
You need
I'm
adult
gonna go over main
supervision.
points, do a quick review, and then wrap up from there. Ability usage, right? We just talked about a lot of ability usage stuff, so we don't have to do too much. Use them more frequently. Sleep, use it a ton more frequently, but think about potential for pressure and actual pressure. Nade, we just talked about all the different ways that you can land it. Look for aggressive anti-nades. Heal when people are alone in danger, and when they're not, then you go for the anti-nades. Chuck it in the fight, try to get some value out of it.
Enemy down.
And then overall, I'd probably say ability usage is like a, trying to think, maybe higher end of a medium priority for you to work on. Then your ultimate usage, ult usage, make sure not to hold on to it. Besides that, most of them seem pretty decent. Didn't have too many issues with it. So overall, that one probably goes to like maybe higher end of a low, something like that. Mechanics. There was some stuff with scope usage that we didn't have time to go over, so we'll ignore scope usage for the moment. Besides that, we didn't talk too much. Oh, we talked about overhealing, right? Don't overheal. Watch health bars. Make sure that you're not doing that, because there's a lot of time you could do instead. A lot of things you could do instead. Look to do really anything else. Just watch health bars. Make sure you're not overhealing. Reloading, make sure you're reloading just anytime you get the chance. Anytime there's nothing going on, reload. That way you actually have ammo for when you need it. Overall, that stuff, maybe like a higher end of a low to medium priority for you to work on. Moving on to your positioning. Positioning, we just talked about taking off angles. Besides that, we didn't talk too much about, make sure you're sticking with your team, right? Run forwards with them.
Double kill.
I think that is mostly it, right? Watch your angles on your teammates. Can you actually see people and whatnot? You want to make sure you have a line of sight to be able to see what's going on with your team.
I have you on
Overall, though, that probably goes to, once again, like maybe higher end of a low to medium. Then you finally have awareness. Awareness is paying attention to your surroundings, what's going on with your abilities and your health, and what team comp is the enemy team on. I'd recommend press tab at a very minimum once between every single fight. That gives you a lot of info. What ults do we have? What is there? Did we swap anything? Did they swap anything? What are their team comps? Team comps, as we discussed before, team comps dictate play style. They change how you play, so pay attention to what they're running. Watch kill feed. Kill feed, 1 to 2 is an advantage or disadvantage. 2 to 3 is a won or lost fight. Probably recommend, I'll have them written down for you, but note the numbers, because people often forget the numbers. They'll go through the gameplay and they'll go, oh yeah, something about kill feed, and then they'll come back to the next session and I'll be like, all right, how do you tell? And they're like, I don't know. So I know the numbers, right? 1 to 2, 2 to 3. When you've lost a fight, get out if you can. If you can't, let them kill you. Don't use ultimates in won or lost fights. General here and there things as well within awareness. Overall, that one probably went to maybe a higher end of a medium as well. So to put that all in order, probably say number 1 comes out to your ability usage. Number 2 comes to your awareness. Number 3, probably to your mechanics and all the stuff entailed within that. 4, positioning, and then 5 is your ultimate usage. Do you have any questions about anything?
So something I struggle with very much so is rotating.
Quiet time.
Not even. I have a really hard time telling what state of a team fight I'm in. until I've rotated, and I'm like, oh, that was a bad time to rotate. So I try to take off angles when I can, but I feel like I take good off angles at the wrong point. If that makes sense.
Okay. Well, firstly, off angles should what an off angle is an off angle is short and fast. It being short means that there probably shouldn't be too much going on in the time that you're gone. So the two examples I just gave you were where this one took you literally a second. So if your team's right here and you go like this, okay, your team's not going to die in that time that you just did that, right? If it takes you 2 seconds, right? In most cases. If you're doing this, this is slightly longer, but if you heal your team up as you back up, okay, now it's 1, 2, 3. Okay, now we can see our team again, right? If we need to, we can drop. So if you're doing off angles, well, then you shouldn't be losing line of sight with your team too long for anything to happen to them. If you are flanking, then that will happen. A flank is, you don't want to do long rotations or flanks in the middle of a fight. Ow, I might be getting a Charlie horse here. One moment. Ow, ow,
Ooh.
ow. Ooh,
Bananas,
all right.
man.
I'm good. All right. So,
They're the
continuing.
worst.
Continuing. So, yeah, don't do long flanks or rotations in the middle of a fight, right? Enemy team, our team, flank would be if we went all the way around. All the way around. The flanks are much longer, much more dangerous. Ana should pretty much never be flanking. She does not have survivability, and she doesn't have speed to make this faster, so our whole team just died in the meanwhile. Don't do those in the middle of fights.
Experience always wins in the end.
Or long rotations either in the middle of fights, unless it's absolutely necessary. Does that make a little bit of sense and answer that question of the difference between the two? But then also pay attention to like what do they look like they're pushing? What's the health of your teammates? Are they all full HP or are they all 1 HP? Right, there's a difference between the two. Is the enemy team kind of chilling here, or are they in the middle of pushing? Right, it's identifying like just kind of what's going on, and it's once again awareness of your surroundings.
Is it more of like an opportunity thing than like a?
Then something you force.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
Yeah, it's when you. I mean, you don't want to. You don't want to go for. Once again, healing comes as unless you see an absolutely massive nade. So you see like 4, 5, 6 man anti nade, or something of that sort. Healing takes the priority over damaging and anti nading. So if somebody needs healing, you heal. If your whole team needs it, you stay with them and heal, and then when they do not, which will happen, then you go for the anti-nade or for the damage, or whichever.
Okay, that makes sense. Okay.
Okay, so that's about it. I'll get you recording